Two parents were arrested in California after police found that they had kept their 13 children captive at home, shackled to their beds with chains. 9 years after his parents were killed in the Mumbai terror attacks, Moshe Holtzberg returned to the city and visited Chabad House, where his parents were gunned down. Subsidy given to thousands of Hajj pilgrims each year will be scrapped by the Indian government. They say the move will help empower Muslims with dignity. Four-time Olympic champion Simone Biles alleges sexual abuse by her former Olympic doctor, joining 140 other women who have made similar claims against Larry Nassar. Even as Pakistan is coming to terms with the rape and murder of a 7-year-old, 3 celebrities in the country have opened up about their experiences of sexual abuse in their childhood. A frustrated Pakistan is now seeking all-weather friend China's help as Beijing fortifies bunkers along the India-Pakistan border. A Pakistani newspaper has warned that the danger of a military conflict between India and Pakistan is growing, after comments by the Indian Army chief who said the Indian Army is ready to call Pakistan's nuclear bluff if the need arises. China has hit out at Indian Army Chief Bipin Rawat, saying his recent remarks won't help in preserving peace at the border. General Rawat has said that India needs to shift focus from its border with Pakistan to that of China. Bangladesh says it has agreed to a time frame with Myanmar for repatriating hundreds of thousands of Rohingyas. Myanmar has agreed to accept 1,500 Rohingya every week, with an aim to return all of them within 2 years. The United States and Canada are co-hosting a summit in Vancouver today in an attempt to push for tougher measures to curb North Korea's nuclear and missile program. More than 20 countries, including India, are taking part in it. The Sri Lankan Navy arrested 16 Indian fishermen for allegedly engaging in illegal fishing activity in its territorial waters. The fishermen are from the state of Tamil Nadu. More than 350 African and Arab migrants were rescued last night off the coast of Tripoli in Libya. Libya has become the preferred departure point for illegal immigrants hoping to cross the Mediterranean into Europe. 10 construction workers were killed after a bridge they were building collapsed in Colombia, 95 kilometers from the capital, Bogota. Footage of a car literally flying through the air in Santa Ana, California has gone viral. CCTV footage shows the moment the speeding car landed in the second floor of a building. Georgia is hailing this hero firefighter. Dramatic footage shows the firefighter catching a child who was dropped from a burning apartment building. Thousands fled from their home as lava oozed out of a trembling Philippine volcano. More than 12,000 have been ordered to evacuate the perimeter of the WION crater. Several oil slicks have been found in the waters around the sunken Iranian tanker ship in the East China Sea. The oil spill appears to be growing 3 days after the burning ship sank. Fresh twist in India's judicial crisis. A day after Attorney General K.K. Venugopal said the matter was settled, now he claims the crisis is likely to be finally resolved in 2 to 3 days. India's Supreme Court will now hear a plea seeking a special investigation team probe into the death of CBI Judge B.H. Loya next week. The Indian government is planning to break up debt-burdened state carrier Air India into 4 separate companies and offer to sell at least 51% stake in each of them as part of its disinvestment plan. Amid massive protests, Pope Francis kicks off his week-long visit to Chile and Peru, aiming to raise the profile of the local church hit by child sex abuse scandals. Police in southern Germany say a school bus rammed into a house without braking, injuring 21 children. The children were rushed to local hospitals for treatment. In France, 7 prison guards were assaulted and injured by a fellow prisoner. 9 guards had to intervene to break the assault. In a fresh suggestion that Brexit could be reversed, European Union President Donald Tusk says the bloc's hearts are still open to Britain if the country changes its mind about leaving. Hong Kong's leading democracy activists are in court to appeal against their jail terms. The case is seen as a litmus test for the independence of the city's judiciary, which some fear is under pressure from Beijing. The Cranberries band lead singer Dolores O'Riordan died suddenly in London at the age of 46. The Irish musician had led the band to international success in the 90s. A 1939 luxury Mercedes limousine that used to carry Adolf Hitler around Germany will be auctioned in the US next month. The car is expected to fetch $1 million.
As a group of 13 siblings in California realized to their horror, they were held captive, shackled to their beds with chains and left without food or water by none other than their own parents. The couple have been arrested. Here's what they put their children through and why.
From the outside, house number 160 on Muir Woods Road in Paris may look like any other home in California, but inside it were unspeakable horrors.
Crazy, you never know who your neighbors are.
This couple has left America shell-shocked. 57-year-old David Allen Turpin and 49-year-old Louise Allen Turpin are also known as the parents from hell. The Turpins were arrested on Sunday after police discovered that their 13 children had been held captive in their home. The children, who were between 2 to 29 years of age, were shackled to their beds with chains and padlocks in dark and foul-smelling surroundings. Police got wind of what was happening inside the house after one of the children, a 17-year-old girl, managed to escape and called 911 from a mobile phone she found at home. The girl claimed her 12 siblings were being held captive by their parents. Police say the 17-year-old girl looked more like she was 10. When they found the other siblings, they were even more shocked to discover that 7 of them were actually adults, aged between 18 and 29. All 13 appeared emaciated, pale and very dirty, and were rushed to local hospitals for treatment.
In the time we live in, it's unfortunate to see this. It's actually heartbreaking for the staff, and it's unbelievable what you see. We pull out all the stops, so to speak, to make sure that, again, that their privacy is dealt with, that they get the appropriate care, and that they are treated with dignity and respect at a time when they need it the most.
According to public records, the couple lived in Texas for several years before moving to California in 2010. David Turpin had been declared bankrupt twice. At the time of his second bankruptcy, he seemed to have a well-paying job as an engineer at an aeronautics company. But with so many children and his wife not working, his expenses appear to have exceeded his income. On the California Education Department website, David Turpin is listed as the principal of a private school that operated from the house. According to the website, the status of the school is active. Neighbors say they knew a large family lived in the nondescript suburban home, but that was about the extent of their knowledge.
They didn't speak. They kept to themselves. They were, like I said, the kids were invisible. And the only time I saw the kids, besides the Christmas incident, the kids were just coming out of the car, going into the house. That was it. So it was I never saw the kids by themselves. The parents were close around. But I believe that even though I thought they were kids because they physically looked like preteens, I don't believe they were. I think these were the 20-year-olds.
Police say the parents are yet to give a logical reason as to why they had kept their children shackled. And according to eyewitnesses who saw the couple being taken away, they didn't look particularly mentally sound.
She was just like coughing, acting a little weird, and just like the police officer was talking to her, and she just kept like smirking at him and like kind of like she spit twice down the floor.
This quiet middle-class suburban neighborhood is shaken to the core, with the residents now soul-searching about whether they should have spotted that something was awry. Houses on the street are so close together that it is difficult to imagine how a family could hide such an enormous secret here. And yet, that is exactly what seems to have happened.
They were the type that you didn't really get to know anything about them. They were very to themselves, in a sense, clannish. So they only kept to themselves. And the only time you would see them, you would never see anyone visit. You would never see anyone come outside. All you would really see is that they'd go out, maybe make a grocery run, and that was about it.
The couple's Facebook page shows several photos of the whole family, apparently smiling and happy, making it even harder to come to terms with the horror that was discovered. No one seems to know how long the siblings may have been held captive. And of course, no one can answer the hardest question of all. Why? Bureau Report, WION.
Welcome back. It was another power-packed day in India for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, joined by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Mr. Netanyahu addressed the Raisina dialogue in Delhi this evening, speaking on the subject of managing disruptive transitions as he is able to maintain peace because it is strong militarily. He described military, economic and political power as key to great power status. Mr. Netanyahu also pointed out that India and Israel faced a common threat of radical Islam and thus need to strengthen ties. The two countries want to innovate, are democracies, and have traditional values that bind peoples, he said.
Powerful traditions, ancient cultures of which we are so deeply proud, and yet these inquiring minds that reach out for the sky, reach out for new solutions to new problems all the time. And I think this characterizes our two peoples. But I believe, too, that there's one thing else that binds us together. And I think perhaps it is the most important of all. We have a special relationship. Among the many countries, we have a special relationship to democracies. Our way of life is being challenged. Most notably, the quest for modernity, the quest for innovation is being challenged by radical Islam and its terrorist offshoots from a variety of corners, and this can upset the international system. I think that one of the ways to overcome such a challenge is to strengthen the relationship between our two great democracies. The alliance of democracies, I think, is important to secure our common future.
Earlier, the Israeli Prime Minister visited the Taj Mahal. He and his wife Sarah posed for pictures at the iconic symbol of love. They were welcomed in Agra by Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath. Netanyahu also took time off his packed schedule during his ongoing visit to India to chat with journalists accompanying him from Israel. Reports say that he spoke of India's strengths, its gigantic markets, and the many agreements being signed to boost trade, security and diplomatic ties with New Delhi. But he also touched a subject that may emerge as a point of discord in this relationship: the Islamic Republic of Iran. India has good relations with Iran, while Israel sees Iran as enemy number one. When asked whether he had broached the subject of Iran with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, here's what Mr. Netanyahu reportedly said, and I'm quoting, "We have spent many hours together, and much of that conversation focused on Iran, the danger it poses, and the aspiration for hegemony over the Muslim world and Muslims everywhere." Israel believes that a nuclear deal signed with Iran by Western powers will only allow that country to make nuclear weapons. Mr. Netanyahu wants that deal amended. He told Prime Minister Modi that Iran is trying to establish itself militarily through its proxy organization, the Hezbollah, in Syria, which is also Israel's hostile neighbor. So how does this equation really look? Let's take a closer look at the relationship between these three countries we're talking about: India, Iran and Israel. Let's see how each country views the other. India recognized both Israel and Iran in 1950. But while it established full diplomatic ties with Iran, it did not do so with Israel till 42 years later. That was 1992. During the Cold War that ended in 1991, Iran and Israel were allies of the United States, while India was on the other side, which means India was allied to the former Soviet Union. After some ups and downs over the decades, India today has good relations both with Israel and Iran. If it sounds complicated, we can tell you it is. Now let's see what binds India and Israel. They have a mutual foe, that's Islamist terror. they also have a growing trade and defense relationship. Israel came to India's help by providing equipment at very short notice during the Kargil war. India is Israel's biggest buyer of weapons. But India and Iran also have many common trade interests. Iran is the second largest supplier of crude oil to India, for instance, and India is one of the largest investors in Iran's oil and gas industry. India has built the Chabahar port in Iran and successfully opened a trading route that will bypass Pakistan altogether. And that's very important strategically for India. And that's not all. People-to-people relations between Iranians and Indians have flourished over hundreds of years. So despite political, cultural and religious differences, the question now is, will Iran prove to be a spoiler in the India-Israel relationship? Till some years ago, it would have seemed that way. After all, India has been steadfast in its support of many other countries hostile to Israel, such as Palestine, Saudi Arabia, even Syria. But not only have Tel Aviv and New Delhi forged ties despite these differences, many West Asian powers are now beginning to reach out to Israel, starting with Saudi Arabia. So we end where we began. Will Iran be the new Palestine, and will that be a deal breaker or a spoiler? Meanwhile, Mr. Netanyahu's big delegation includes a boy who shares a special relationship with India. 9 years after his parents were killed in 26/11 Mumbai attacks, Moshe Holzberg has returned to Mumbai with his grandparents and Sandra Samuel, the nanny who saved his life.
Who can forget these mind-numbing images of Nariman House from 2008 when terrorists unleashed horror on India's financial capital? And this picture of 2-year-old Moshe with his nanny Sandra Samuel became the face of hope and humanity. Sandra ran out with Moshe to safety when terrorists were spraying bullets on innocent Jews. His parents were among the 6 people killed. Later, Moshe is back at his birthplace, accompanied by Sandra Samuels and her grandparents.
It's a very special day to be there and to thank God for them, but Moshe can come in the house, and also I hope they will be first ever come over here.
Those who saw Moshe grow up in front of their eyes are happy that the little boy is back.
Well, I did realize that she was a little pregnant because she's taking a pregnancy walk down the street. And then I just asked her, what makes you come into such a small bylane to start a center? Well, it just happened by coincidence. I said, well, that's good. That was the last time that I actually saw after before the 26/11. Post that, I never got a chance to see her. But yes, I have seen Moshe as a child because I used to see him being walked down, strolled down by the mother, possibly to Gateway of India, through these bylanes, to the market. Well, they were to themselves, to be very honest, and nobody ever thought that there would be a 26/11 ever happening in our lives.
18th January, a very significant day, as the Prime Minister of Israel, who is in India, will be visiting Mumbai's Chabad House, and Moshe will be accompanying him along with his grandparents. With video journalist Kanti Parmar in Mumbai, Pragya Jha, WION.
Meanwhile, among the 9 agreements signed between Prime Ministers Modi and Netanyahu, one is on cyber-security cooperation, and very, very significant one at that. Here's a report that explains how Israel can actually help India in combating terrorism and preventing cyber attacks.
Terrorism poses a great threat to the peace and security of any country, and the use of technology makes it easier for terror outfits to plan and execute their operations. It therefore becomes imperative to have a strong cyber framework that can protect the country from modern terrorism. The India-Israel partnership on cybersecurity appears to be a great move to fight online terrorism. It can help India secure new age cyber infrastructure through a framework of security startups and cybersecurity training program. Israel has world's most sought-after cybersecurity startups, something that India has been trying to replicate here. And this bilateral agreement between India and Israel can help the Indian government secure the cutting-edge cyber infrastructure and create a new age cyber framework. Cybersecurity training in Israel is another area that can aid India prepare cyber warriors. Israel's Talpiot program has played a key role in training cybersecurity experts in Israel. It has become a global benchmark in cybersecurity training. People trained under this elite program today are founders of the most successful tech companies in Israel. While there is a huge potential for India to learn and benefit from Israel's modern age tech culture, but how this new age partnership pans out in areas of military and defense remains to be seen. Bureau Report, WION.
But beyond the well-equipped military, Israel has another lethal weapon. It's called Mossad, or the Institute for Intelligence and Special Operations in English. Mossad is one of the 5 intelligence services of Israel, but it is perhaps the most well-known agency in popular culture for some skillfully targeted killings and sophisticated missions around the world. So what exactly do they do? The short answer is they kill the enemy. The long answer is as follows. Foreign intelligence gathering and related missions come under the purview of Mossad. Israel has done its best to keep these operations under wraps. The agency is believed to have begun its operations way back in the 1950s, but Israel took more than 40 years to talk about Mossad in public, to even acknowledge that something like this existed. The Israeli government told the world about the then director of Mossad for the first time in 1996. The director reports straight to the Prime Minister of Israel. Mossad is a small team, and yet it's one of the most lethal agencies in the world compared to America's CIA, which reportedly has around 20,000 employees. Mossad reportedly operates with a team of just 1,200 personnel. Despite the veil of secrecy, Mossad has been linked with some world-famous missions. In the 1960s, their agents managed to find and abduct Adolf Eichmann, a leading Nazi during the Hitler regime who was one of the major organizers of the Holocaust in Germany. In the 1970s, Mossad carried out what was called the Wrath of God operation. Israeli agents hunted and killed 11 Palestinians involved in the Munich Olympic Games massacre. That's when 11 members of the Israeli Olympics team were taken hostage and eventually killed. This Mossad operation was the subject of the 2005 Steven Spielberg film called Munich. In this century, Mossad has been blamed for killing senior Hamas commander Mahmoud al-Mabou. And that's all that we know about Mossad, but we'll keep looking for you and keep updating you on what and why this agency, this intelligence agency of Israel, is so intriguing. Gone by was a particularly hot one on the line of control. 771 ceasefire violations compared to 228 in 2016. Government told the Lok Sabha that the Indian Army's tactical operations and cross-border retaliatory firing killed 138 Pakistani soldiers last year. Comparatively, India got off lightly, losing 28 soldiers. Indian Army Chief General Bipin Rawat said the Pakistanis can expect more heat this year.
नॉर्दर्न बॉर्डर्स पर वास्तविक नियंत्रण रेखा के क्षेत्र में विवाद जारी है। इसका उल्लंघन होता रहता है, जिसे रोकने के लिए हम संयुक्त रूप से कार्य कर रहे हैं और करते रहेंगे। नियंत्रण रेखा पर पाकिस्तानी सेना संघर्ष विराम का उल्लंघन जारी रखते हुए आतंकवादियों की घुसपैठ में सहायता करने के प्रयास करती रहती है। हम विरोधियों को सबक सिखाने के लिए अपनी ताकत का इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं। पाकिस्तान की किसी भी उकसाने वाली कार्रवाई का हम हमेशा मुंह तोड़ जवाब देते रहेंगे। अगर हमें मजबूर किया गया, तब हम अपनी सैन्य कार्रवाई के दर्जे को बढ़ाकर अन्य कार्रवाई भी कर सकते हैं।
In other words, in 2018, the Indian Army will deliberately target the Pakistani Army in the event of an infiltration bid. And this could include cross-border strikes on Pakistani Army positions, raining heavy mortar fire on them, hitting their bunkers with anti-material rifles and so on. The idea being to cause casualties and inflict pain. And this is precisely what the Indian Army attempted last year as well. General Rawat added, and I'm quoting, "Our ceasefire violations are only in counter-terror operations." But we saw that terrorists are a disposable commodity for Pakistan. Unless Pakistan Army faces pain, they will not stop infiltration. The Army has now confirmed reports that the Pakistanis have reached out to them seeking a return to 2003, when both sides agreed to cease fire on the line of control. This does rather suggest that the Pakistanis are hurting. But for now, India intends to keep up the pressure. Recent intelligence reports accessed by WION also suggest that Pakistan is seeking help from the Chinese to strengthen their positions on the line of control. The help is in the form of high-impact bunkers that can withstand Indian attacks and better protect their men. But what's more curious is that such bunkers are coming up along the international border with India. 2 such bunkers have been sighted in Bahawalpur, which is about 400 kilometers from the international border with India in Rajasthan. The reports say that these bunkers were built under the supervision of Chinese engineers. They are underground, measuring 12 feet by 10 feet. These bunkers are covered with sand, making them hard to detect. They're reportedly powered by solar lights. Speculation is that they will be used for surveillance of the border. The intelligence reports have also warned of an upgrade and expansion work on 3 Pakistani air bases in Khairpur, which is about 25 minutes flying time from the Indian border. Also, Tharpakar and Meethi. The upgrade and expansion could be largely modernization driven. It could be part of the assistance China is giving as part of the Belt and Road projects. Does Pakistan plan to open other fronts against India is the question. It could be all of them. The Pakistani military sees India as the eternal enemy, and the Chinese may find it convenient to help their ally. Whatever their intentions, India needs to keep its defences up. In fact, the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir is the line of fire during day, while at night the enemy seeks to push armed infiltrators and terrorists across into India. This is where the real challenge often is. WION's Raghavendra Rao joined an Indian Army patrol laying an ambush somewhere near the line of control to experience firsthand what it takes to stop infiltration along the border.
Jai Sahab! Jai Hind! Shriman, aapke briefing ke liye ek jaisa shayad Hazrat! Okay. Team, sabhi theek thak? Hazrat!
The Pakistani troops sitting across the line of control never give up. If not firing on Indian Army positions during the day, they are constantly probing, seeking a weak spot in Indian defences through which they can infiltrate armed terrorists at night. So guarding the line of control is not easy, and it becomes even more challenging when pitch darkness serves to cloak an infiltrating terrorist.
Weapon check! Sir! Equipment check! Sir! किसी को कोई संदिग्ध हरकत दिखता है तो मेरे फायर पर फायर खुलेगा. मेरे ब्रीफिंग में किसी को कोई शक या सवाल? शक नहीं तो जयकारा.
This is why the Indian Army resorts to night patrols and ambushes. The idea being to catch the infiltrating enemy by surprise and eliminating him. It's another night at the line of control, and Indian Army has got specific intelligence inputs that the enemy is trying to infiltrate terrorists into Indian territory. A patrol party has been readied and is now proceeding on an ambush and patrol with the name of preventing these terrorists from sneaking into Indian territory. It takes considerable training and practice to master the art of walking on narrow snow-covered mountain paths at night. But these soldiers know the ground, yet they tread carefully, each maintaining a predefined distance from the other and keeping a hawk's eye on their surroundings. The enemy could be lurking in any corner of these snow-covered slopes, something the Indian Jawan knows better than anyone else. The night vision devices these troops wear provide a clear view of the heavily forested areas they move in. Any intruder can be spotted. Temperatures in these areas can plummet to -10 degrees Celsius in winters, but the cold is no deterrent for these men. The job has to be done. Once the designated point is reached, they take their positions and the ambush is laid. There's no telling how long they will have to wait. It could take a few hours or even the entire night. For that matter, it's not even clear if infiltrators will attempt this route. But the job has to be done, come night or day, in hot weather or sub-zero cold. For the enemy is just across with all the advantages. He decides when and where to infiltrate and how to do it. He has to succeed only once, but the Jawans facing him have to succeed every time in blocking an infiltration bid. Indian Army soldiers deployed at the line of control have to maintain a high degree of alert at all times, because even a momentary lapse can allow infiltrators to sneak into Indian territory. These soldiers are not just watching the infiltration routes, they're also keeping a close eye on the enemy positions which are located just meters away from Indian posts in many places. Keeping the status quo is a daily challenge here. At the LOC, with video journalist Ajit Thakur, Raghavendra Rao, WION.